How's it going? I'm just going to start out right here showing you a dynamic pose with Spider-Man. Um, he's articulated enough to get him some cool poses, but I think not too much to where you're going to end up with what do they call him, a scarecrow, or just a figure that's super loose. So just to give you an idea, I mean, this is a decent little pose that I've got him in here, so he's fairly stable. He's got I think a proportioned body, head, all that other stuff. I like the sculpt. Um, this is probably one of my favorite Spider-Man, and I'm going to get to some of the details as to why. He's not my number one rated figure right now, and I'll also tell you the reason as to why. That later here in a minute too. So here we go. All right. So let's talk about this figure for a minute. Let's start with his head. If I can get his head sculpt off. Well, for the sake of everyone, I would take and pop his head off, but that's not going to happen because it doesn't want to come off. So, and I don't want to break him. But up close and personal, here is his face from the front. Probably not doing it any justice. You can see the rivets there, or the little grooves there where the eyes are at. What I do like is when you turn his head, you can see the outline also on his mask for his nose and for his chin. So he's got good articulation in the head. You can look all the way down. You can look all the way up. It's kind of cool to a point too, because it almost looks like he has an Adam's apple right there. So I kind of like that. His head will do a full 360. This is pretty much going to be the same mold as far as for the upper body. I believe even for the legs, this is going to be the exact same mold, really just a repaint of Constrictor. As you can see here, he's got the extra, little chest joint there, just right at the shoulder, so you can get him in some other poses with his arms back. So I don't know if you can see that. Of course, on a ball joint, he's got a swivel at the bicep there, double jointed elbows, and he's articulated at the wrist. It'll do a 360, and it bends up and down. I'm not going to play with him a whole lot because I don't want him to have loose joints. So he does have a very nice ab crunch, as you can see. So he goes down. He was already facing down as it is, but I think this is really it's a good sculpt for Spider-Man. He's a skinnier figure, but at the same time, I think with this sculpt, it gives him enough muscle, doesn't make him seem too puny, And I've seen some Spider-Man where, he's been really, really scrawny, or he's been a little too buff. I think this is a really good balance. I'm probably just going to go ahead and straighten him out here and give you a good view of his paint. Because I've got to say the paint apps that they've done for him are spot on. So let's get him in a good. There we go. All right. So like I said, the paint on him is pretty good. I'm happy with it. So they paid attention to details on this figure. You can see that, the crest that he's got here on his chest, it's painted well. There's no like bleeding, no splotches or anything like that. And when I say details, they made sure that they matched it up on the extra portion that he has here on his chest. I don't know if you can see that, like on his shoulders. So, and how that lines up with this extra part that he has. So even when it's in, it lines up with that shoulder. Same thing on this side, it lines up with that shoulder. So might be a little off on that one when it comes out a little bit, but I think all in all it's pretty good. Now on the other Spider-Man, which I don't have to show you right now, in the Big Time Spider-Man, the green and the black, which is the regular version. This is the variant. But on him, he doesn't have any paint on the back. On this Spider-Man, they weren't lazy. They actually added the crest there on the back of him. So I was excited about that. And like I said, attention to details. They made sure that they added it to the extension that he's got just right there in his shoulder and his shoulder blade. He's got paint on the side of his arms here. Let's see if I can. There we go. On the side of his arm, which is pretty comic accurate. And then they also paid attention to underneath his arm there. You can see that. Same thing on the other side. So he's not lacking when it comes to his paint detail or anything, all the way down to his feet. So they really did a good job. I'm really happy with the paint job. I'm happy all around with this figure, and it's great that they use this mold that they use for the Constrictor for the Spider-Man. One thing that a lot of people complain about is his hand. They say that his hand is too big for the rest of his body. Well, you know, I think for the most part it's okay. Could it be a little smaller? Maybe, but I think part of what the problem is that makes his hand look so big is just the paint scheme. Compared to his other hand, if we were to try to do that, I mean, this fist is in a ball. That to me seems a good proportion to what he's got going on right now with his body. That's a decent sized hand. See it from a distance? You just got, I mean, that's a decent sized hand. So he's Spider-Man. Now look at this hand. If you take away the fingers that are sticking out, that's pretty much the same size as what his fist is on this other hand. So, of course, if he extends his fingers, it looks a lot longer. Look at my hand. Now look at it. Looks a lot bigger. That's realistic. So everyone that's complaining about that and says that they don't like the hand and they think it's too big, I just think you guys just don't know what proportion is, and I think they did a good job on it. So that's my 2 cents on that. That's what I think about it. So everybody has their own opinion. But I think they did a great job in the figure. So let's go to Paint App. Paint App, great. Overall, for the figure itself and the sculpt, I think they did a good job. It's obviously a repaint of the Constrictor, but it's also a new head sculpt, so very satisfied with that. The articulation, you know, he's got articulation in his ankle. He's got that ankle rocker. So, and it goes all the way up. Like, that's insane. Spider-Man has a really broken ankle. That's what I'm saying. So they did a really good job with that. I mean, he points all the way down, and he can go all the way up on that ankle, which is really good, I think, for a Spider-Man figure. If you're trying to do some poses with him on the wall, you know, sometimes you need that ankle to go all the way down, so it'll be flat or flush with the wall. One thing that they did lack in is there's no articulation in the toe. I mean, I can live without it. He's got the double jointed knees. He's got the ball jointed, you know, the one where you have to twist and all that stuff to get the legs kind of where you need them. Like I said, he had the ab crunch. One thing that I did leave out is he does have a swivel at the waist, which is nice that they added that in there along with the ab crunch. Of course, on the shoulders, you know, and everything else that I showed you with articulation. Now, because his head and his neck kind of stick out like that, you pull his hand down. It kind of looks like his neck sticks out or protrudes a little bit further, but I think it's okay. So still looks like he has a little Adam's apple, all that. So I was disappointed though, because this figure, you know, you're looking at the price point that you're paying at, you know, even if it's at Walmart or Toys R Us, there's no accessories for this guy. You know, he's decently articulated, but I mean, they could have thrown in something, whether it be a web, whether it be a display piece, some type of stand, a flight stand, anything. They could have did something just to maybe add something to this figure. So not to take away from the figure's great, but you know, when I do a review for him, you know, I give him a grade based off of, you know, accessories, based off of total look, and you figure some figures have capes, have something that shows it's Spider-Man. So how are you gonna have Spider-Man with the web shooting fingers but with no web? I'm just saying. Just throwing it out there. So there's nothing else that goes with this guy. So that was the disappointing thing. Other than that, paint spot on. And he is a really basic, flat, pretty much he's just white and black. There's no details. There's no extra shading in the paint, which is a shame. To show off, you know, the abs or anything else. It really doesn't show a whole lot. Granted, the paint scheme and everything else, the design that's on him is great. That's awesome, but they really lacked with any shading. There's no shading on this. With that in mind, I gave that about, you know, with his paint, just because they did a good job on the paint scheme and attention to details, I went ahead and gave it an 8. And then with his sculpt, I like the sculpt. The articulation, I'm satisfied with the articulation. I went ahead and gave that a 9. I think, or 9.5. So with the paint, and then with or the lack of, with the detail, and then with the lack of any accessories to him, with that, you know, as a whole for the figure, I gave him another 8. So other than that, you know, I think he's a decent figure. So, you know, he got a, I think it was like a 8.9 or something. So, but would I recommend getting him? Yeah, I think he's cool. If you're going to get some of the Fantastic Four, or if you have some of the older Legends, you've obviously got some of Fantastic Four. Probably can make your own customs, repaint their uniforms. I'm hoping they're just going to do a re-release of some Fantastic Four figures, so that way we can have the entire Future Foundation and them in their uniforms. It's not too bad. So if you guys like Spider-Man, he's a must-get. I like him. A lot of people want that McFarlane Spider-Man, which is great. He does great figures. But this is definitely not one that you want to pass up on. He's going to be wanted or in high demand later, I think. And even the same thing with the big time Spider-Man, even though the paint and all that other stuff kind of sucks. Apparently, he's going to be a little harder to get. They say that they're balancing these figures with the variants and regulars 50-50. I think what's going to happen is, yeah, they were releasing the variants now, but later they're going to be, these will be hard to get. But right now, what seems to be is like a lot of the regulars from this particular wave are hard to get. So if you get them, pick them up. I wouldn't hold back. I would just say, you know, splurge a little bit, get you a Spider-Man. And my screen blanked out. Awesome. So I'm going to end it there. You guys comment, subscribe, and I'm going to be doing Pile Driver next. I did pick up some things, however, from Steve's store today. While I was there, I got to meet some of the guys, so it's good seeing you. Sorry I didn't go eat. Hanging out with the wife. Like I told you, I'm whipped. So I came running home. But I'm glad I got a chance to meet you guys there. Sorry I was late. I had a bunch of stuff, taxes, all that good stuff. So I'll try to catch you later. And Ryan, enjoy your stuff. Hopefully you're happy with that. I pretty much gave you a lot of that for, under what cost was, fuel, everything else, but I was just looking to help you out. So I know you wanted some of that stuff, and a lot of it disappeared and kind of hard to find. So I'm glad I could help you out. Glad I could meet you. I apologize that I didn't make it out there to, McNally's, but that's okay. There'll be another time. I appreciate seeing you. Thanks for coming down. And don't forget, I'm almost at 50 subscribers. I'm like at 38 or 39 now. So about 12 more subscribers or so, and I'll be giving away some free stuff. So I'll see you guys later. Peace.